and gentlemen, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this lesson, we will be talking about plot, setting, and characterization. This lesson is part of the most essential learning competencies in English grade 10. And if you would want to have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that I'm using in this lesson, feel free to message me through my Facebook page at www.facebook.com/teacherzine. So, let's begin the topic right away. Let's begin with characterization. What comes in your mind o ano yung pumapasok sa inyong mga isipan kapag naririnig ninyo ang salitang characterization? Sige nga. Tama, ang characterization of course ay tumutukoy sa mga characters o mga karakter ng isang istorya o ng isang kwento o ng isang nobela. Alright? Talking about characterization, it specifically is a writer's tool, kumbaga literary device, to develop characters and create images of the characters for the audience. Because of this characterization, nalalaman natin kung ano yung pagkatao ng isang karakter, no? So basically, this is a literary device which enables or which develops a certain trait of a particular character. All right? And for us readers, or for us who is observing these characters, we are able to create images. Natuto tayo or nalalaman natin kung ano ba yung pinoportray na character ng isang tao or ng isang personality na kasali sa isang kwento o sa isang nobela. Alright? Now, talking about characters, this specifically refers to persons, animals, creatures, or things that serve as actors or movers in a story. It's very important because without these characters, there will be no plot of the story. Walang tatakbong mga sequence of events sa isang kwento dahil sila yung nagpe-play or nagpo-portray at sila yung gumaganap sa different scenarios or situations ng isang kwento. Okay? Alam naman natin na sa isang kwento, napakaraming mga characters na bumibida. Alright? At dahil dyan, we feel excitement at times because of the different portrayal ng mga iba't ibang mga characters. We also have this, what we call dialogue. And dialogue is a conversation between two or more characters in a work of literature. It can be written or spoken. Like an example in this slide wherein we're showing a simple dialogue between the fox and of course the little prince from a very famous book of the French writer, journalist, and aristocrat Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This is a conversation between the fox and the little prince when the latter actually visited Earth and found the fox taming the fox in the story. So, in that particular story, this is very famous. Napakaganda ng kwentong ito. Napanood ko yung adaptation ng movie na ito sa Netflix at talaga namang napakaganda. Kasi nga, it brings a lot of moral lessons. Mayroong moral lesson ang istorya ng The Little Prince. It actually brings moral lesson about sadness, happiness, about searching for wisdom, kumbaga. It also, there is also love at the bottom line of this particular story. And this very famous line from the fox that says, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the heart," and that is very sentimental for me. It creates a very interesting meaning knowing that at times we take for granted those important people or those important things. Parang binabaliwala natin, and then at the end of the day, we are just going to regret kasi nga hindi natin pinapahalagahan without knowing or unknowingly na wala lang pala yung special na tao na iyon o yung special na bagay. So, lesson lang dyan is we really have to value those important people in our life or those important things in our life. We need to give sentimental value for those things or for those people. Okay? Let's continue the lesson. We also have another very important element of a story which is called the plot. this is very important because without this one, there will be no excitement at all. There will be no story at all. So basically, plot is the logical arrangement of dramatic incidents or events occurring in a story. When we say about logical arrangement, of course, this refers to the chronological order of events or situations that happen in a story. We have this plot structure as our guide in determining how the story really run through. We have this exposition or the introduction, and then we have this rising action wherein we definitely able to identify what the conflict or the problem is. Then we also have the highest peak of the plot, which is the climax. All right, and then winding down, we have this falling action, and of course the result or what is the outcome of the story, which pertains to the denouement or the resolution of the story. We will get to know them one by one. Okay? Sisimulan natin sa exposition. So, of course, these are the elements of plot, and we begin once again with exposition, or we also call this one as introduction. Alright? Exposition refers to the beginning of the story, where the important background information such as the characters, setting, and the main conflict of the story are introduced. Basically, in exposition, we gain initial background about what the story is all about, and then the beginning part of the story is being revealed, and of course it appears the characters, the setting. When we say setting, kung saan ginanap yung kwento or yung nobela, yung istorya, okay? And sometimes also in the exposition, the main conflict, when we say conflict, what is the struggle, what is the obstacle being experienced by probably by the main character, okay, of the story. So, makikita iyan sa exposition or sa introduction. So basically, in this lesson, I integrated The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry as an integration of this lesson. So, ano nga ba yung simula ng kwento ng The Little Prince? This is an adaptation taken from DepEd TV. I would like to sincerely give credit to DepEd TV for this video clip about The Little Prince. A story clip of this very famous best-selling book of the French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. So let's try to figure out the beginning or the exposition or the introduction of the story, The Little Prince. Please watch this story clip.
There was once a little prince who lives on a small asteroid called B612. He believed that he should take care of his home, so he always cleans it. He spends his time maintaining his 3 volcanoes and pulling up the baobab trees that grow underground for the fear that it might engulf his tiny planet.
Alright, so in that particular story clip, the character, of course, is being revealed. The main character, who is the little prince, and then the setting in a particular asteroid or somehow planet. But basically, or specifically, it's an asteroid called B612, if I'm not mistaken. And also the surrounding or the setting kung saan ginanap yung kwento. It was also revealed, and then the little prince has these 3 volcanoes and also keep on tinatanggal yung mga baobab trees na pumapalibot sa kanyang planeta or sa kanyang asteroid. Alright? So in that particular clip, we are able to get to know what is the beginning of the story, The Little Prince. Alright? Now, for us to continue, let's proceed to the next element of the plot, and this time we'll talk about the rising action. When we talk about rising action, this is where the characters begin to experience crisis and face conflicts. The word conflict, of course, as I told earlier, refers to the struggle or the problem being experienced or the struggle that the main character faces. There may be one central struggle or main struggle, a very big problem that the character needs to solve, or there may be minor obstacles than a dominant struggle. It depends on the flow of the story and how the writer really would want to, inflict excitement into his or her story. All right? So, let's try to figure out what is the rising action. When we also talk about rising action, ito yung initial excitement na makikita natin sa isang kwento. So, in this particular part or in this particular element of the plot, mayroon ng excitement. Ano nga bang kasunod na mangyayari? At nare-reveal din, simulang nare-reveal na din yung problema na magpapaganda sa isang kwento. So let's try to figure out what is the rising action of the story The Little Prince through this story clip.
One day, a seed mysteriously grew and blossomed into a flower, a beautiful rose. The little prince had never seen a flower. "You're so beautiful," said the prince. "I'm going to water you every day and shelter you with this glass globe at night. I will call you Rose." The little prince fell in love with the rose, and the rose loved him too. They were together all the time. However, since the rose constantly demanded for the little prince's time and attention, he was annoyed and decided to go on a trip around the universe and left the rose behind.
Oh, so we can see in that particular clip that the rose talaga nagpapukaw ng atensyon sa little prince and they fell in love with each other according to the story clip. However, there are times wherein the rose tends to be so annoying and then na-annoy, being tormented, of course, na-annoy yung little prince, and then the little prince came up with a decision to go or umalis sa kanyang planeta or sa kanyang asteroid. Saan kaya siya pupunta? So in that particular story clip, we are able to identify already the problem, wherein we can say that there is doubt, there is confusion on the little prince feelings towards the rose. They fell in love with each other, but at the end, the little prince would like to seek for other kind or other form of happiness. Eventually we'll find the progress of the story as we go along with it. So we'll proceed to the next part or the next element of the plot, which is the climax. When we talk about climax, this is the turning point and the most exciting, the highest peak or the most exciting part of the story, where the main character faces a major enemy, fear, challenge, or other source of conflict. This is the part wherein, like say for example, if the story is about war, so ito yung part ng plot na magkakaroon na ng patayan, yung mga ganyan-ganyan na talaga namang we are able to grasp such intense emotion towards the instances or towards the events na nagaganap sa isang kwento. Of course, especially when we are watching movies like that, we really felt, right? I mean, the excitement, especially if we are already able to reach the climax part of a particular story or a particular movie like that. So, as mentioned in the slide, this is the part of the plot wherein the major character or the main character faces major enemy. Mayroon na siyang mga makakalaban, tapos ano ba mangyayari? Magkakaroon ba ng maraming patay or yung mga possibilities na magaganap, and different challenges or other source of conflict, because we have different types of conflict. We have the man versus society, man versus nature, in different forms, and that will happen. All of those things will happen in the climax part. So as we go along with the story, The Little Prince, let's try to figure out what is the main challenge, what is the main conflict that the Little Prince experienced in the story. Let's continue watching the short story clip.
When the little prince arrived on the first planet, he met the king who had been living on his own for many years. The moment the king saw the little prince, he said, "Finally, I have someone to rule now. From now on, you will be my servant." And so, he started giving him orders. But the little prince was not used to taking orders from anyone. "This man is not my friend," Because friends don't give orders, he said. So he decided to leave and go on his journey. On the next planet, the little prince found a vain man who was totally well dressed. The vain man said to the little prince, "Great! Now I have someone to admire me." Then he grabbed his mirror and asked the little prince to tell him how good looking he was. But later, the little prince realized a true friendship is not based only on praises and compliments. Again, he left and went on to the next planet, where he saw an old man who was reading books. So he asked, "What are you doing, old man?" "I am a geographer, and I study and write about the mountains, hills, rivers, oceans, and the deserts. Please tell me about your planet so I could write about it," the geographer replied. The little prince remembered his planet. He started talking about the volcanoes, the baobab trees, and his rose. "Wow, that's incredible! But I'm afraid I can only write about the ones that last forever. I'm so sorry. I cannot write about you and your rose," said the geographer. The little prince felt sad. With a heavy heart, he immediately left the geographer's planet. So he went to the earth. At first, he thought the earth was nothing but an ordinary planet until... "What are you doing here?" It was a wild fox.
Oh, so that's it. That is the climax of the story. Wherein in that particular part, we can really feel that the main character or the little prince still don't find the wisdom or the happiness perhaps that he is looking for. So pinupuntahan niya yung mga iba't ibang mga asteroids or mga planeta rather to search for happiness. And eventually he went to the king, and then there are a lot of realizations, because in this particular story we can really tell that sometimes we adults tend to forget the best childhood memories that we have, and then we are very busy, we're very inclined with a lot of things, with a gazillion things, but eventually we are able to forget those great memories that we had during our childhood. So dahil talagang napaka-busy natin sa trabaho, so ganyan, until it came up to the point wherein the little prince went to the planet of the geographer and told him that he cannot write something about his rose because eventually the rose will not last forever. At that particular point, nagkaroon ng doubt ang ating little prince, and he was able to realize indeed that the geographer told him is eventually right, because the rose will not be eternal at all. So it made him miss his one and only rose until the geographer suggested to visit Earth, and then he meet this fox, wherein I think I mentioned this one a while ago or earlier about the very famous advice the fox gave to the little prince, right? That the valued one, sometimes we tend to forget. We cannot see that one through our eyes, but of course we can see it through our heart. It's within us. It's within us, our the inner us, who can really see and feel the love and the care, the courage, like that. So that's the climax of the story, wherein the little prince experienced different challenges, or the different went to different places just to seek for happiness, just to seek for wisdom, looking for real happiness. But eventually, nahanap nga ba niya yung happiness or wisdom na hinahanap niya? I believe hindi pa. So basically, of course, as we continue, as we go along with the story, we'll get to know as to what really happened, on what is really the progress of this particular story of Little Prince. So let's go on first to the next part or the next element of plot, which is the falling action. We're done with the highest peak or the climax with the different challenges of the Little Prince. This time, what happened next after that one? And it will take place, of course, in the falling action. When we talk about falling action, this is the event when the story begins to wind down and complication starts to fall into place. In this particular thing, malalaman natin kung ano yung naganap after nung climax, okay? Example, if it's a tragic one, so mayroon ba mga namatay, ganyan, or anong nangyari, anong kinahinatnan ng war with that particular setup or with that particular scenario of a particular story. Now, let's try to figure out what happened next after the Little Prince was able to talk with the fox. Ano ba? Tinulungan ba siya ng fox? O ano ba nangyari? Saan ba siya nagpunta after that one? Let's try to continue to identify by watching the next part of the story clip.
Hi, I am the Little Prince. Can we be friends? He asked. The fox answered, Only if you tame me. What does tame mean? The Little Prince was confused. To tame means to establish ties, to create a bond. The fox replied, Or else, you're just like the other little boys to me, and I don't need you. And you don't need me too, for I'm just like other foxes. I think I know what you mean, said the Little Prince. There's a flower. I think she has tamed me. And oh, I miss her so much. The Little Prince realized how unique the rose was to him, even though she was stubborn at times. My rose is my true friend, and she needs me, he said to himself.
Alright, so in that particular part, the Little Prince already realized how important his rose is because of what the fox told him. And eventually, sometimes there are really times in our life wherein mamimiss po talaga or mamimiss talaga natin yung mga tao, yung mga bagay na hiniwalayan or nilayuan natin, di ba? I think that is very relatable to our life. So basically, the Little Prince had that particular realization because of the fox. Now, let's go on to the last part of the last element of the plot, which is the resolution or denouement. Since eventually we gained or we had the idea that the Little Prince really missed his rose, in this particular part or in this particular element of plot, we will get to know as to what happened. Mababalikan ba ng Little Prince ang kanyang rose? Will she be able to go back to his asteroid or to his planet to, of course, save his rose? Because we don't know what happened to the rose there in the particular planet or asteroid. Well, also, this part or the resolution or the denouement is the final element of the plot. This is the final outcome of events in the story. And of course, a story can end happily or tragically. Of course, we have, this kind of ending. We have, for example, we have this tragic ending or happy ending like that, or a comedy or tragedy wherein in comedy it ends happily, and then in tragedy, of course, it has a very painful or an ending, probably full of mourning or sadness like that. So let's try to figure out right now kung ano yung ending. Ano ba, nabalikan nga ba ng Little Prince ang kanyang rose sa kanyang planeta or sa kanyang asteroid? Let's try to see as to what happened on the last part of the story through this short clip.
Yes, my rose needs me, and I need her too, the Little Prince said. And so, he decided to go back to his volcanoes and his baobab trees, and to his planet. When he saw the rose, He hugged her tightly and whispered, "I will never leave you again because I am responsible for you. I love you, my rose." Yes, he was back to his planet where he and his rose lived happily ever after.
And that's, of course, how the little prince tamed with his rose. The friendship, the ties between them lasted forever. And because he was able to go back to his asteroid or to his planet with the help, of course, of the people whom he met throughout his course of doubts in life. Sometimes, no, we really experience that one wherein we have these difficulties in life with our decisions, and then mayroon pang mga different challenges that will run through our lives. So talagang mahirap. But at the end of the day, it's really up to us to realize how to overcome these struggles in our life. And of course, by realizing to value the importance of the people that surrounds us, or the things that really help us, of course, in our life. So let's have a recap about plot. It is otherwise called a storyline, and it includes the most significant events of the story and how the characters and their problems change over time. And as I mentioned, based on the flow of the story that we watched a while ago, a plot can be diagram or it can be structured first, of course, through the beginning, the introduction, or through exposition, and then rising up to the rising action, wherein the problem is being revealed, and then to the highest peak or to the most exciting part of the plot, which is the climax, then winding down to the falling action, what happened, what took place after the climax, and of course, what is the ending, or what is the outcome of all the events that had happened beforehand. And it is also being seen, or it can be seen, of course, in the resolution or the ending part of the story. Alright? So that is the plot diagram. Now let's talk about the third element, and we'll be talking about a setting this time. I believe this is quite familiar to all of you. When we say setting, of course, this refers to the time and location, or when and where a story took place or happens. Basically, ito yung tumutukoy sa kung saan ginanap, and then kailan, but not only that one, because there are also different aspects of setting wherein we can really elaborate, we can really describe in a deeper way what the environment, the background information of a particular story, because setting also has different aspects, right? So the very first aspects of setting is the place, of course, wherein it refers to the geographical location of a story. It answers the question, where does the action of the story take place? Saan ginanap ang kwento? That is the place, okay? Another very important aspect of the setting, of course, is the time. It refers to the historical period, time of day, year, and others. These answers the question, where does the story happen? Or, I'm sorry, it should be when. There is a typo error on that. I'm so sorry, but I will be changing that one after this video. Alright, so it basically talks about when. Remember when? Kailan? Kailan ginanap ang kwento? Kailan ginanap? Okay? It may be specifically we can identify the specific day, if it is really given by the author of the story, the specific day, the year, the story took place, like that. So that's one important aspect of a setting. We also have another one, which is the weather condition, wherein this is the atmospheric state in terms of temperature, the wind, the clouds, and the precipitation. we in this particular aspect we're able to identify if the story happened on a rainy season, a sunny season, or stormy season, like that. Another aspect of setting is, of course, this one. We have the social conditions, wherein this refers to the writing that focuses on the speech, the clothing, the mannerisms, and customs of a particular place. This is like being specified already as to um, what is the culture on that particular scenario, or ano yung mga tradisyon na kadalasang ginaganap sa isang kwento, like that, or in that particular setting, meron ba silang tradisyon or meron ba silang mga customary routines that they're doing. So it pertains to the social conditions of the story, or what is the daily life of the characters like. Mayroon ba silang mga as I mentioned earlier, mga routines or mga ginaganap daily, like that, or the common traits or the common culture that is being seen all throughout the story. So that's the social conditions. And last but not the least, the last aspect of setting is the mood. When we talk about mood, this is the general feeling or atmosphere in the story that is created with the audience or within the audience. This answers what feeling is created in the beginning of the story. Is it happy, sad, tragic, exciting, or suspenseful, horrifying, like that, troublesome, and a lot of mood, a lot of expressions, a lot of feelings that we can see all throughout the story because of the characters. So those five, as I mentioned earlier, place, time, father condition, the social condition, and of course the mood, are the five very important aspects of setting. Alright, so that's it for our lesson in English Grade 10 Quarter 1 Week 3 about plot, setting, and characterization. I hope in my own little way I'm able to help, I'm able to impart learning to each and every one of you. Sana nakatulong, and I hope that you will be able to master, familiarize, because who knows, as we go along ways forward, you will be creating your own stories. You will be conceptualizing your own ideas through short story making, and then with this lesson you're able to familiarize already the plot, setting, and characterization. And I hope that this lesson will help you in creating a more exciting plot for your story. That's it for now. I am Teacher Zine. Thank you very much everyone for watching the video, and I hope to see you on my next video lesson. Thank you and goodbye everyone.
Standing on